What is the ultimate cure for anti-work? Well, it's the anti-work movement. If you haven't heard of it, anti-work is a subreddit online with 2.1 million members. It was on the news because the, I guess, spokesperson of it spoke on one of the NBC, ABCs, and it was this completely unemployed person with colored hair that just wanted to dog walk for a living. It was the worst look ever, but anti-work is a real movement and they propose better work environments for Americans. The tagline actually, unemployment is for all, not just the rich. That's funny. But anti-work is about getting more out of your time investment, and it's similar to the lie flat movement happening in China. If you haven't heard, the Chinese work culture is a bit more crazier than ours, even though America is crazy itself, and they have their own lie flat movement, which is similar to anti-work. Lie flat says we are not going to contribute to the economy at all, and we're just going to lay down, lie flat, and look at computer screens. So lie flat is really detrimental. Anti-work is kind of detrimental too, to its own prerogative. Just think about it. Like I said, anti-work, they want better work conditions, more work incentive, more reasons to go to work. That means less annoying managers and less prejudice at work, better benefits, and more impactful work. All of that sounds really great, and you've been seeing that in the market. It's 2022, and you've probably heard about people getting raises at their work for inflation, and that's what I see a lot on the anti-work Reddit, talking about how to get higher salaries, who needs to be paid more, which according to them is everyone needs to be paid more. And of course, better pay is the number one thing that people look for on the job market, and we can say significantly anti-work has made an impact. Maybe it's timed perfectly for inflation, but not only are salaries going up, the bonuses and benefits, sign-on bonuses, have become so much more common now that the competition is a bit more stiff, and the base salary obviously has gone up. And let me give you an example of those base salaries going up. I would say pre-COVID, a UX designer. Now, a UX designer is a glorified graphic designer. That's kind of offensive. That's not entirely true, but UX design is visual design for web and app design. UX is user experience, user interface. So UX can apply to more physical products, but generally speaking, a UX designer is not writing the backend infrastructure or making these big official choices. So they are a individual contributor on the team. I'm trying not to be offensive, but I wouldn't look for a UX designer to be the person that makes the most money in the company. And about 5 years ago, UX designers, I would say, probably got 120K base salary, not including bonuses, stock, or anything else, just 120 grand. And that's at a top company like Instagram or one of these companies that everyone sees on the stock market. And now someone with 5 years of UX experience is asking for 150 to 200K. If you watch my channel, you've heard me talk about that before, because I've had another candidate, a UX designer, asking for 180K. And that's not the same person. It's multiple people that are asking for those salaries. So that gives you an idea of how much wages have gone up since COVID. Now, a lot of that happened because we completely avoided the recession from COVID. We shut down the economy for months due to a quarantine and just COVID in general. But the economy really didn't feel that hit the economy. If you're not going to produce but consume, that's going to create problems. And the government delayed that by printing up some money. But as you can see, it might be coming our way. And that is really what changes the game for anti-work. And you know, not everyone likes anti-work. Obviously, business owners generally are the biggest proponents against anti-work. And it seems kind of obvious, right? Anti means not working, and business owners don't like not working, but it's a bit bigger than that. Like I said, anti-work in the movement is proposing for better work and better job for everyone, right? Who is the person who increases salary, who offers better benefits? Well, that all falls on the business owner. They have to create new systems to handle the new benefits, right? If employees are demanding for better health care, and let's say it's 2021 and everyone has a job, that these new employers are going to have to offer better packages. They're going to have to raise base salaries and create better working environments. That might be hiring more HR people to create company culture, or analysts just to find out where the problem is that makes people want to leave the company. But generally speaking, the business owner has to pay for all of this. This is all a cost. Who is paying for these higher salaries? Well, ways to pay for higher salaries is to automate away some of the jobs, and you will definitely see that happen in the tech environment. If you work in DevOps, you know the rule is to automate everything away, and a lot of people in DevOps are used to automating away their jobs. That's their job, and moving forward, that's how businesses are going to cut costs if they need to automate away some jobs, so they don't even have to raise the salary. Of course, they are going to have to pull some of the earnings of the company and put it back into the company with increased wages and salary, but that takes money away that could be invested into the company and its further growth. Generally speaking, it just means slower growth for the company. And obviously, third, they are going to pass on these costs to the customer. So let's say you work at Dunkin' Donut and you've been campaigning for, let's say, $30 an hour. That's a hefty amount. And Dunkin' Donuts gives in. They say Charlie D'Amelio is such a good brand ambassador. We need to commit to better working environments for our employees to keep up the brand name. And they go up to $30. But guess what else goes up to $30? The coffee. The price has to come from somewhere. So as wages go up, the cost must go up for the customer. And most companies can't afford to absorb increase cost from profit alone. So what if the work and what does anti-work encourage the most? Well, that's high wages. What comes with high wages is what you should ask, right? So let's say now your wage goes up by $30 an hour. What are some of the first things that you do? Well, you go out and buy things. You probably buy things that aren't on discount, or maybe you go buy things that are in high demand. That is essentially how inflation increases. If a ton of people suddenly have more money to buy things locally in their area, well, the demand is up. There's more people that can afford to buy those items. In the environment, those people need more of those items to buy. So there's a chance that either those items might increase in price if there's no ability to increase the number of them, or simply there'll just be more of that in the market if there's more buyers. And when wages go up, inflation goes up and companies become more risk adverse. So think about it. If you are paying your secretary $70K a year, now that secretary is working full time, yes, but they are not needed to run the business, and there are days when the secretary is out and the company doesn't even notice her presence, his or her presence, because they're not an integral part of the team. But we have to pay that person 70 grand. They're living out in Ohio, so 70 grand is living pretty big for a role that's not vital to the company. And if that secretary decides to quit, they're going to hire another secretary for 70 grand, but they can't really take a risk on hiring someone that doesn't have a reputation, that does not have industry experience, or doesn't know someone in the company. Why? Well, there's a cost to hire these employees. Every person costs money to onboard. Sometimes it's around 10 grand. And if that person doesn't work out, well, they're going to get fired or laid off, most likely fired, which is also a cost, not just in unemployment, but having to replace that person. It's a 10 grand to find a person, and then 10 grand to onboard them. So there's a lot of costs involved. That's a lot of risks. So as salary and wages go up, as anti-work wants the movement to encourage, or as the anti-work movement encourages, so does a company's risk adversity, and it could create an environment. Well, I think it has created an environment right now. If you are junior entry level in the tech industry, you know how hard it is to get a job right now. Well, that's because the entry-level jobs for tech are on standard higher than any other industry, and there are more entry-level candidates on the market than probably ever before. So not only is the competition higher, but the risk is higher at hiring a new freshly graduated student from college into an entry-level position. So you already know this problem if you're entry-level in tech, and you already understand how anti-work defeats itself. But let's get a little deeper. How do we act during a recession? Well, we generally, but let's take it a bit further. How do we, as professional job seekers or people looking for a job on the market, act during? But let's take it a step further. How do we, me and you, people that are looking for a job or have a job in the labor market workforce, So let's take it a little deeper. How do people like me and you, people in the workforce labor market that are looking for a job, employed or maybe employing people, how do we react during a recession? Well, number one, we act more conservatively in the workplace. We are less risky with our jobs and more willing to take on additional workloads at work to maintain the job. Typically, we are more willing to take a lower salary during times of recession. Well, that doesn't always play out like that, right? Sometimes we take a lower salary when we get laid off from a job, right? If I get laid off at 150K, well, my new job, anytime you want to get a new job, it should be an increase in salary. So if I get laid off at 150K and I get a new job at 150K, well, that's technically, my salary's not really going up, it's technically going lower if you think about it. But then there are realistic examples of people. Let's say you were hired at a well-funded startup company. They were able to really compete on your salary offer because they could just go ask people for at least in the past, they could just go ask people for more money and not have to worry about if you as an employee could make profit. So you bid up your salary with a startup employee or with a startup company, but you get laid off from that startup company. You go out on the workforce and it seems like there's so many cheap companies out there that just will refuse to pay. I saw someone on Reddit talking like this, oh, get a better budget for your company if you can't afford me. Well, that's how the story and the song starts. Before the recession is officially announced, people will say, you just don't have enough money to pay for someone as good at my job as I am at my job. That is the first stage. And then next comes negotiation. And that's what's happening with that UX designer I mentioned looking for that high salary. She is trying to negotiate. When I tell her there's no room for negotiation, it drives me crazy. Back and forth trying to get me to raise my number because she wants to work at my company. But the company that wants to pay her more is just unappealing. Well, that's kind of the first step of the recession, right? These unappealing companies are going to keep their high salaries, while companies that may have more attractive work or work environments may start to ask for more reasonable salaries. Another thing that people do during a recession is they take less desirable jobs. And that was an aspect that made tech so tight in the past, is that you had a ton of people that wanted a small number of jobs. They were the fancy, glittery tech jobs that everyone dreams of, it seems. And then you had a ton of no-name companies that maybe you would work at for some experience on your resume so that you could get to that dreamy tech company that you've always been wanting. Well, now a lot of these smaller tech companies, which were previously undesirable jobs, are going to become more desirable. That might be because the companies have stability, publicly traded stock that's still valuable, or simply because it's a job willing to hire other candidates. So that naturally will create opportunity for people to take less desirable jobs. Recession causes people to take lower wages and generally put up with more workloads at work or unpleasant managers. And that is everything that anti-work is about. Now, I will concede that maybe anti-work is being knocked down by inflation, but did inflation create the anti-work or anti-work created the inflation? That's really hard to know. Please don't call me a libertarian for this video. I am not a libertarian, although I do have some of those ideas. I don't want to declare myself as anything on camera. Okay, don't get mad at me, but this is not a political channel, so please don't relate this to minimum wage. I do kind of like minimum wage. Thanks for watching this video. If you are in the anti-work movement, please let me know your thoughts. I call myself the anti-work recruiter, so please keep that as a nickname if you watch my channel. I'd love to see it in the comments. And let me know your thoughts. Do you think that salaries will just keep going up and up and up and there won't be any sort of inverse reaction? Do you think that people are going to price themselves out of the job market like I think is going to happen? I have a feeling there's a lot of people who have been overpaid for so long that they don't even know what their real market value is. And I'm sorry, but the only way you find out your market value is going on the market and interviewing for jobs, right? And some of my candidates, it's pretty obvious to me that they don't know their market value and they're asking too much, but they don't seem to get the hint. They think it's the companies being cheap. But thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel and share this with anyone else you know. And I hope to see you in the next one.